In this video, I'm going to walk you through the calibration process for this Grizzly 20-inch planer. Other brands in this size range are similar, so this procedure might work for them, and should also work for 15-inch models. I'm doing this because my planer is acting a little weird. It wants to kick pieces to the side, and I'm getting a fair amount of snipe. Before we get started, let's talk a bit about how these machines work and what adjustments we're going to make. This diagram comes from the Grizzly manual. The workpiece is moved through the machine by the infeed roller. The chip breaker helps break off chips and send them to the dust collector port. The cutter head cuts. The pressure bar helps stabilize the workpiece and directs chips to the dust collector. Finally, the outfeed roller pulls the workpiece through the planer. So, to calibrate the planer, we'll set the infeed and outfeed rollers, the chip breaker, and the pressure bar to specific distances from the bottom arc of the cutter head. Now let's talk about what these distances are. This diagram shows Grizzly's numbers from their manual. This is how the machine should come from the factory. Here the infeed roller and chip breaker sit 40 thousandths below the cutter head. The pressure bar sits 8 thousandths below, and the outfeed roller 20 thousandths below. But to me, the chip breaker number especially doesn't make sense. When I got my machine and ran a piece through, it made a horrible noise and the piece came out with a bunch of oil and orange paint on it. The chip breaker and pressure bars are painted orange, so the paint came from one of those. So I took it apart and wiped the bars down and verified the calibration using these numbers. I ran another piece through and still got the orange paint rubbed off on the wood. I was pretty convinced that the chip breaker number was not right. This diagram is from the Powermatic manual. The big difference here is that the chip breaker is even with the cutter head and the pressure bar is actually above the cutter head. These are the values I've had the best luck with. We'll set the infeed roller to 32 thousandths below the cutter head, the chip breaker even with the cutter head, the pressure bar 8 thousandths above the cutter head, and the outfeed roller at the same height as the infeed, 32 thousandths below the cutter head. All machine maintenance starts with unplugging the machine. To do the calibration, I'm going to use a rotacator. This is a dial indicator on a magnetic base. You don't have to use a rotacator for this, but it makes it a lot easier. Rotacators are about $100, so if you don't want to buy one, your manual should outline a method using a block of wood and some feeler gauges. Because we have to check both sides of the machine, there's a lot of sliding the rotacator back and forth. To make this easier, I'll be using two rotacators. The first thing we have to do is remove the top cover and dust collector port. This machine uses 5mm hex head screws for the cover and 10mm bolts for the dust port. Next, we have to take off the gear cover, and in order to do that, we need to temporarily remove the height adjustment wheel. On this machine, there are two metal flaps on the gear cover. Just loosen one screw and remove the other, and it'll flop out of the way. A 6mm hex key will remove the screw holding the cover on. And don't forget about that second metal flap. Now we can put the height adjustment wheel back on so we can raise and lower the bed. We'll place the first rotacator under a cutter segment, or a knife if you have those. Raise the bed until we get a reading on the indicator. Rock the cutter head back and forth. We're looking for the lowest point of the cutter's arc, called bottom dead center. When we find that, we'll zero the indicator. All of our measurements will be relative to the bottom dead center of the cutter. If you're using two rotacators, slide the zeroed one out of the way and place the second one under the same spot and zero it the same way. Double check yourself here. Any error between the two indicators will be added to every adjustment. Once both indicators are zeroed, lock the bed. Normally, I'd work the machine front to back, but for some reason I started at the chip breaker this time. Put one indicator on each end of the chip breaker. We're looking for a zero reading here, showing that the chip breaker is in line with the cutter. These are both reading zero, so I don't need to make any adjustments. If you do need to make adjustments, here's where you do it. All of these adjustments are 3mm hex screws with a 10mm locking nut. They're adjusted by loosening the nut and moving the screw in or out. Watch your indicators when retightening the nuts because it will move the screw a bit when you tighten them. Now we're going to move up to the infeed roller. Place the indicators so they're reading the lowest point of the rollers. We're looking for about 32 thousandths below the cutter head. This one is reading a little shy of 32 on the left and about 26 on the right. That's probably why it's kicking the pieces to the side. Let's bring these into tolerance. The adjustment screws for the infeed roller are on the underside of the top, near the front pillars. For the pressure bar and outfeed rollers, it's easier to adjust them from the back, so we'll flip the indicators around and get them under the pressure bar. For the pressure bar, we're looking for 6 to 8 thousandths above the cutter, so this will be on the other side of the dial. I'm about 8 on both sides here, so I won't need any adjustments. If you do, the adjusters are here. And finally, we do the outfeed roller. When I got to this adjustment, I found my lock nuts to be loose and the adjustment screw almost completely backed out. I'm not sure how that happened, but that's a problem. We're looking for about 32 thousandths below the cutter head again. Mine is at about 70 on the left and 98 on the right. Way off. This adjustment is done the same way we did the infeed roller, and the adjustment nuts are in the same spot, but at the back of the machine. Now we're done adjusting. We can unlock the bed, remove the indicators, and put the machine back together. Then we can plug it back in and run a test piece through. The piece feeds straight and comes out nice and smooth. Before we build a melamine bed, we need to move the bed rollers out of the way. There's an adjustment on each side and they just cam up and down. If you're not building a bed, you want to set these to about 2 thousandths above the cast iron bed. You can use the rotator for this measurement too, just flip the indicator so it's pointing down instead of up. Because this is a 20-inch planer, I'll rip my bed out of a full sheet of melamine. The big box stores often carry pre-cut shelves, but at mine the ones wider than 20 inches are only 48 inches long, and that's too short for my planer. If you have a 15-inch planer, the shelf pre-cuts work great and are a lot easier to handle. I rough cut the pieces with the track saw because I don't have proper outfeed table and I can't move a whole sheet over the table saw. Once that's done, I trim it to final width over at the table saw. The length should be a couple inches longer than the bed, and you'll want the width to fit the planer bed as snug as you can get it. To hold the bed in place, I'll mill up a piece of 2x4 scrap so it's the same width and has one flat face and a squared off edge. I'm laying out a set of holes about an inch from the front edge and 2 inches from the sides. This fancy doohickey you can't see is just creating an even spacing without measuring. Next, just drill and countersink holes for whatever size wood screws you have on hand. Clamp the 2x4 piece so it's flush with the edge, drill some pilot holes and screw it down. Do the same thing on the back side and the bed is secure. With the bed in place, we'll run another piece through. It feeds nice and smooth with no snipe.